Hey YouTube, what's up? I hope you've seen my video of my MN-90 of the modifications I did with the body and with the chassis. And I have to tell you some news. I was totally happy with this car, it was fantastic as it turned out, but there was one problem, and this problem, I still use the stock motor, the small 180 motor. The problem with this 180 motor was it's weak. As we all know, it's really weak, but the car ran quite well, as you can see here. That's my first video in the field when I ran it first, so it did really quite well. But the motor was not perfect. The motor ran that hot one day after I've done a 10 minutes run in leaf and litter. It has run that hot that the plastic of the mounting of the motor mount has melted. First I replaced it with a spare motor mount I had from my Willys Jeep with the 180 motor. So what did I do? I ordered a metal transfer case from Banggood and use it with a 370 motor. As you know, if you've seen my motor tests, I do already have quite a couple of 370 motors. I put the 6-volt version in my MN-90. So I ordered the central transfer case without motor. The metal transfer case from Banggood looks quite good. You have to assemble it yourself and you urgently need shims for the shafts. Comes with screws. I replaced the screws by better ones. And of course you need to lubricate it in the end. So compared to the plastic motor mount and gearbox, it's about the same ground clearance for the car, and compared to the metal gearbox for front motor mount with only 2 gears, you lose about maybe 8 mil. Gearbox and motor are supposed to be mounted in this direction as seen here on the pic, and I tried first with the motor to the front and the gearbox to the back direction. But if it's mounted that way, as it's also in my Willys Jeep, you have this long axle shaft to the front, and I do not really feel good with this way of mounting, because I think that this long shaft will get a lot of bumps when crawling, and so I thought if it would be possible to mount it in the other direction. There's only one hole in the frame in the front, but anyway those holes are too large. But I tried to mount it in the other direction with the motor to the back and the gearbox to the front, and I think this is probably the better way. So I made a further 3mm hole for the M3 screws for the gearbox, and the front hole is too large now, it's 4.5 mil. I used the plastic links of the MN-90 to make shims to fit the M3 screws. Those holes in the links are for 2.5 mil screws. I used a 3mm drill to widen them, but it's quite easy, and then I cut the end part. Take care not to lose them, and those shims I made fit perfectly to the frame and make the M3 screws that for the gearbox fit perfectly. I had to make some additional holes for the screws in my sliders, and that's the final result. The gearbox mounted to the front and the motor to the back side, and the long axle shaft is in backside direction. I cannot think of any disadvantage of this. So if you guys know anything, please comment, write in the comments why the long shafts should be mounted to the front side. The only disadvantage I can think of is the approach angle. That's a little bit better with the gearbox in back direction, but otherwise For example, the rear drive shaft, its angle is now much flatter, so much better. And I would not think why the companies want you to mount the motor to the front direction and the gearbox to the back direction. Probably because there are already two holes in the frames, but anyway, those holes are too large. So please, any ideas? Did I do something wrong? Anything wrong? If yes, please comment. Thanks in advance. First test. Everything seems to work, but now rear axle is turning to the wrong direction, so I have to change the axle direction. Shit. So if I had to do this, I had to unmount the rear axle, I also changed the plastic gears to metal ones, and as I've shown you in a previous video, and now everything seems to work perfectly. Those tires are quite a little bit of wobbling. Anyway, seems to work fine, not as smooth as it does in my Willys Jeep. Probably you've seen the video, but so far ready for the first wheel test. So let's make a driving test. Yeah, and it drives really nicely. Very good low speed control, no problem, only the bumper makes problem to climb this step. And also high speed is sufficient, significantly faster than with stock setup. And don't forget, this is all done only with 2S, so I only use a small 2S LiPo battery and not 3S, as I did show you in my motor tests with my Willys Jeep frame chassis. So very happy with this. It goes so fast that you even can make wheelies, as you can see here. Nice small little crawler, and the climbing abilities are also very good. So this is a 45-degree or even more than 45-degree steep incline. It does nicely, no problem at all. So a big success. Highly can recommend this upgrade. So let's take a look inside. Further good news. Windshield for MN-90 D90 is now available as spare part on Banggood. I did already order a new windshield, so I can replace the windshield I've broken in the beginning. Opa. That's how everything looks inside now. Works perfectly again, using 3.5mm gold-plated plugs for the motor, still using only the 2S battery with the red JST plugs, and the Hobby King X-Car 45 ampere brushed ESC. I'm totally happy with the car now. I don't know what I should upgrade. Maybe I could also use the Hobby Wing 1080 ESC I used in my motor tests. That's for sure a better ESC, the best ESC probably you can buy for the rather cheap price for your RC cars if you're going for a brushed motor. And other than this, I'm totally satisfied now with the car. I can highly recommend those metal transfer cases. If you do shimming and the 370 motors, it's a huge improvement. I will see how this turns out with the longer axle to the back. I think that's the better solution. I think that's the better way than I did do in my Willys Jeep. So you see here motor in front in my Willys Jeep chassis, center motor in my MN-90. The MN-45, the new Land Cruiser, the kit is still not available, only the ready to run is available. I pre-ordered it. I will modify it similar to my MN-90, but I will try to put the motor in the front. I think that's the better solution. But so far this MN-90 now it's near to perfect. 1080 ESC maybe, but it's for about 40 bucks, so it's rather expensive. The Hobby King X car ESC does a good job. I can highly recommend those metal transfer cases. Those for the center with the motor in front are much more difficult to mount, but I think the front motor is the better solution, and the clearance is much better than with the central metal transfer case with it has 3 gears, so you will lose a little bit of ground clearance compared to the front motor version. I'm totally satisfied with my MN-90. I love this car. I hope you liked my video, got some ideas how to upgrade your WPL MN models JJRC trucks with metal transfer cases, 370 gear motors, or to do some scaling stuff as I did in my MN-90. I will do in my MN-45 for sure too, and in the newly soon released WPL Land Cruiser, the WPL C34 I guess is the number. See you next time. Thanks for watching.